Darko Milicic a chance to be great. You can't say that about that many big guys. This guy has got skills.
Jabbar, Magic, LeBron, Bennett. How's that sound?
They're two of the most mocked draft selections in NBA history. An affront to everything scouting and talent evaluation is supposed to stand for. One was selected ahead of Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh. The other went number 1 overall in a weaker class, but one that still included multiple All-NBAers and the Greek f***ing freak. Welcome to 1v1, where we're asking, who was the bigger draft bust, Darko Milicic or Anthony Bennett? First, a shout out to Michael Olowokandi, Sam Bowie, Greg Oden, Hashim Thabit, and the many other wonderful draft flameouts who just missed the cut. Let's begin by looking back on how Darko and Bennett were viewed as prospects heading into their respective drafts. Milicic was an 18-year-old Serbian prodigy by the time the 2003 draft rolled around, having joined a Serbian pro team at only 14 and debuting for that team at 16. It's easy to look back and laugh at the fact Detroit picked Darko number 2 overall. I mean, that's literally the point of this video. But it wasn't exactly a shocker on draft night. As draft expert Chad Ford wrote, I think Carmelo is a distant third to LeBron and Darko.
What?
Bennett, on the other hand, was never expected to be the name called when David Stern announced the first pick of the night back in 2013.
Anthony Bennett of Toronto, Canada, and the University of Nevada.
With USA Today projecting him as a poor man's Carmelo Anthony, after averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds in his lone season at UNLV. But if we're going to determine who was the bigger bust, we need some context about each respective draft, and who was still on the board when the names Milicic and Bennett were called. In case you needed a reminder, the 2003 class was headlined by LeBron James, Carmelo fresh off a national championship at Syracuse, Bosh, and Wade. After Bron went number 1, the Pistons called Darko's name, with MELO, Bosh, and Wade following suit. Given that guys like Ben McLemore, Nerlens Noel, and Alex Len were considered potential number 1 overall picks, the 2013 class was obviously a far cry from the class that produced Darko a decade earlier. Still, Victor Oladipo was taken 1 spot after Bennett, while Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert were taken later in the first round. Heck, Otto Porter went number 3 overall, and while it by no means would have been a great selection with the number 1 overall pick, we also wouldn't be making a video about it 7 years later.
No, he's got a point.
The Cavs were also apparently so ill-prepared and desperate to trade out of the top pick that they still hadn't decided whom to take when Stern announced they were on the clock. Another piece of context to consider when debating draft busts is the circumstances and dynamics of the teams each player was joining. The 2003 Pistons were coming off of a 50-win season and conference finals appearance, but lucked into the number 2 pick in a transcendent draft thanks to the fact they owned the Grizzlies pick stemming from a 1997 trade for Otis Thorpe. Yeah, the Vancouver-era Grizzlies could get a whole video unto themselves. Anyway, the Pistons would be adding the number 2 pick to a team already boasting Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, and Ben Wallace. Though a 2004 trade for Rasheed Wallace helped deliver a championship anyway, the number 2 pick could have been the finishing touch on a potential dynasty in Detroit. The 2013 Cavs were coming off a 58-loss season, had yet to make the playoffs in their first post-LeBron era, and were looking to find another cornerstone star to pair with a young Kyrie Irving. Long-tormented fans in Cleveland assumed that by the end of the night, their beloved Cavs would have 2 budding superstars to build around only 3 years after James had left them in the painful decision.
I guess not.
While both Darko and Bennett underwhelmed, to put it generously, let's assess their NBA careers, which shouldn't take that long.
Oh my God, that's gonna go
Tapped up and
That's
in.
crazy.
Off the jump ball.
That's not something you see every day.
Everyone knew Darko would be somewhat of a long-term project, but it was widely assumed he was going to contribute on some level immediately.
LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, who are having brilliant rookie seasons, and All he's been hearing is how Detroit should have taken Carmelo Anthony, and I'm looking forward to watching this young guy. I've heard a lot of good things about him, and we'll have to see how he performs here tonight in some spot minutes.
Instead, Milicic averaged 1.4 points and 1.3 rebounds on 26% shooting in less than 5 minutes per game as a rookie. Sure, Darko became the youngest player to ever appear in a finals game later that season. The Pistons won the championship, and banners hang forever, but Darko had nothing to do with that success. He lasted only 96 games over parts of 3 years as a Piston, never scoring more than 16 points or grabbing more than 6 rebounds in a single game. A decade later in Cleveland, a rookie Bennett struggled with his conditioning, en route to averages of 4.2 points and 3 rebounds in nearly 13 minutes per game for another terrible Cavs team. Bennett logged 7 points and 7 rebounds in Cleveland's season finale to wrap up a woeful rookie campaign, and wouldn't play another game for the Cavs. As is often the case with high picks who don't pan out, at least a few other teams around the league were willing to kick the can on Darko and Bennett. The Pistons traded Darko to Orlando in 2006, and the Serbian center hung around for another 7 years in the association. The Pistons made another 3 straight conference finals between 2006 and 2008. But again, that success is a lot less impressive when you consider the once-in-a-lifetime hand they were dealt in the 2003 draft. After winning the draft lottery again in 2014 and selecting fellow Canadian Andrew Wiggins, then welcoming LeBron James back to town in free agency, the Cavs included Bennett in the blockbuster deal that sent Wiggins to Minnesota for Kevin Love. But Bennett's value in that deal was about equivalent to Darko's value to Detroit's 2004 title.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Bennett would play another 99 games total over 3 years in Memphis, Brooklyn, and Toronto, before heading to Turkey and then the G League. He never played more than 57 games for a single franchise. Now comes time for the decision. Milicic was the better overall player and enjoyed a much longer NBA career, so it's tempting to go with Bennett here as the bigger bust. But much more was expected of Darko, who failed to make any discernible impact on a team trying to keep its championship window open. Bennett really had no business being taken number 1, which isn't his fault, but that is a permanent stain you can't wash off. Darko was taken directly ahead of 3 future Hall of Famers, and the team that drafted him could have owned the decade, and then some, had he fulfilled even half of the promise Detroit saw in him. Being a bust is all about the failure to live up to expectations, and in that sense, Darko wins, or loses, this debate in a landslide. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.